No longer than 4 months ago, my desk was actually a dining table. I had a local welder make a steel frame for the reclaimed wood that I sourced from the barn on the farm where my mom grew up. When moving to a new place, it turned out that the 120 cm long table is too small. There was no chance I would leave such a piece of furniture behind, so I decided to convert it into a desk. At first, I thought about creating an aluminum construction similar to what I did in my previous project, but I figured it might not be strong enough to support additional hardware. I was looking for an alternative and found one when wandering the alleys of IKEA store. Two 38 cm by 60 cm algot shelves put together make a perfect base for my drawer. To combine these together, I used an L-shaped profile cut to the length of 2 shelves and a number of rivets. Riveter is actually one of my favorite tools, and using it is easy peasy. Simply drill a hole in both surfaces that you want to join, load the rivet into the riveter, put the rivet into the hole and apply pressure until you break off the stud. With the base ready, I started figuring out mounting points for all the components. That's when I decided to relocate the radiator to the south of the motherboard, where there was enough of unrestricted space to accommodate it. Mounting the motherboard required leveling the shelf supports. I used some aluminum profiles that have proven useful many times before. I measured the length of the motherboard, marked the profile accordingly and cut it. Making a 90 degrees bend requires making 2 cuts at about 45 degrees angle each. After removing the excessive material and filing the edges, you gently bend the aluminum. You don't want to rush it, as you may easily break the profile. The middle section mounting holes are in a straight line, so making support for these was only a matter of cutting the aluminum to the length of the motherboard. The south motherboard's edge will rest on the shelf's outline. I marked position of both supports and attached each to the algot shelf with the help from a good friend of mine, Mr. Riveter. Now I'll lay the motherboard on supports and mark the PCB mounting holes where I'll be fixing threaded inserts. To do that, you need to reconfigure your riveter, drill a hole, screw the insert onto the riveter, put it into the hole and slowly apply pressure. This time you want to be gentle and don't squeeze the insert too tight or you will simply break the threads. 8 of these later, I could move on to making GPU supports. For the IO shield end of the VID card, I made 2 3 cm long brackets, one with a slit in the middle and the other one with a hole for the screw. I made a set of similar mounting parts for the bitfenix fan controller. The last hardware component missing mounting points was the CPU cooling radiator. I made 2 frames using aluminum flat bars. These aren't very easy to work with. They're pretty hard to bend and crack quite easily at 90 degrees angle if you're not extremely careful. I didn't have a vise on hand, so I improvised with aluminum profile and 2 clamps. 15 minutes later, radiator supports were ready and I could fix them onto the base using my trusty riveter. I then drilled the mounting holes and tested whether the construction is strong enough to support the radiator. Next, I applied a few layers of black paint. I made the drawer's guide supports using some pine wood, which I fixed to the top using a handful of steel brackets. To fix the guides onto the drawer, I placed one of the guides along the top edge of the L-shaped aluminum profile and used clamps to hold it in place while I was drilling holes for the rivets. After fixing both guides with 2 rivets each, I could finally put the drawer in place. Drawer's front is also pine wood that I cut using a circular saw. Along the left side of the desk I fixed the power strip. The power cable and 2 LAN cables run inside desk's leg through drilled holes. At this stage I also fixed a few PVC pipe supports, which are perfect for cable management. After mounting drawer sides, I stained all pine surfaces to match the top. I drilled the holes under the power supply to improve the airflow, put the unit in place and proceeded with laying cables using a handful of zip ties. Then I placed the stand-offs on threaded inserts, gently put the motherboard onto them and secured it with a set of MP3 screws. Next in line was the radiator, which is held in place with 4 screws. Then I connected the 24-pin ATX power supply connector and the auxiliary power cable, which I ran under the PCB. Laying the GPU flat with the fans facing down required making a pair of supports. I know it looks a bit ghetto, but it works perfectly. The vid guard was connected using PCI Express ribbon riser, which I covered with black insulation tape as I didn't like the grey color. The SSD drive was mounted to the side of the power supply using double-sided tape. The bitfenix fans controller was disassembled and painted black. The last thing left was the power button, which I put on the inside of the drawer's front on the very left side. Well, I think that's that. I know it's far from perfect, but the temperatures are pretty reasonable, and I treat this project as a proof of concept, and I'm already planning a new revision with a water-cooled GPU. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.